Hi, ladies. Just adjusting my camera here. Hang on just 1 second. There we go. There we go. Okay. Hi. Oops, this camera is a little off-centered. I'm gonna make that adjustment. Okay, here we go. Sometimes I can do this before and hang on just a sec. There we go. Okay. There we go. Much better. Okay, ladies, welcome. So happy to have you here. It's my first Facebook Live, YouTube Live in a while, and so I'm really excited. Still working on this camera about being here with all of you. I'm kind of back from taking a little bit of a hiatus from doing the live videos, but I'm excited to be connecting with you. There we go. So today I want to talk about how to speak up on dates. This seems to be a bit of a challenge for all of us. Speaking up in general, especially when it comes to men in awkward situations, is a challenge. So if you're experiencing this challenge, don't worry, it's normal. Of course it is. It's normal to feel a little apprehensive about calling somebody on their behavior, about pointing things out that are awkward. You don't want an altercation because guess what? You don't really know this person. They're a stranger. And so saying something to a person that you don't really know how they're going to respond. And that could put you in a much more uncomfortable situation. So you have to use some wisdom, but let's go through a couple guidelines to support you. Hi, Paula. Hi, Becca. And hi, Clay. Hi, Holly. Nice to have you here. And so I know one of the big things about speaking up on dates is that you're afraid that you'll get rejected, right? Or he'll disappear on you. He won't contact you again. And so we hold back and we tend not to say things. But when we do that, we actually are teaching a man how to treat us from the very first moment by the way we treat ourselves. So speaking our truth is one of the things that makes us feel most alive, most connected, and most rooted in who we really are. And when we don't speak our truth, causes us a lot of, I don't want to use the word shame. That's a little hard, but it makes us feel bad about ourselves. We don't feel good when we don't speak up. And I know all of you have had that feeling. In hindsight, I should have said this, I could have said that. But it takes practice and a lot of courage and really clear boundary mastery in order to know what to say in the right moment, the right time, to the right person, to the right degree. And that takes a little mastery. And so let's talk about some things that come up that do need to be that you can call a man on a date, or anybody for that matter. But one of the things that happens is a man could be running late. And this works for men and women. So really, I'm speaking to everybody. So if the man that you're dating is running late, I recommend after 10 minutes to go ahead and text him. Are you almost here? What's your ETA? Go ahead and text him. Because I think after 15 minutes, unless you've heard from him, you should get up and leave. Because your time is valuable and you're not going to just waste it. So unless he has a valid reason, and people are late, so you want to make sure that you are generous to an extent with maybe he's stuck in traffic, he got out of his office later than he intended. If he sends you that text and he explains and it feels like a valid excuse, then go ahead and roll with it. Get yourself a glass of wine or a cup of tea, talk to the bartender and just relax, look at your phone a little bit and just wait for him. If he doesn't respond to you at the 10-minute to 15-minute, you could either call him because you feel like you had a good connection with him. So you can go ahead and just pick up your phone. That's one thing that we don't do enough. We're just so dependent on texting. There's so much value in just picking up the phone and calling. And even if he is going to ghost you, just leave him a message. Say, hey, it's Jackie. I'm sitting here at the bar at ADV's where we agreed to meet. Maybe I misunderstood you, but it's now 7:15. We made an appointment for 7, and I guess I'm going to be leaving unless I hear from you soon. So hang up and then give him a couple more minutes and go ahead and leave. So that we don't want that to happen, right? That's a worst case scenario when somebody actually doesn't show up, but it happens. But you can protect your boundaries by speaking up and communicating at the 10-minute mark and then the 15-minute mark on how you want to handle that. So let's talk about once they get there and they've been 15 minutes late. So since you've already spoke to him or heard from him and you've agreed to stay and he says, I'm so sorry I'm late, I want you to say thank you. Thank you for saying that. So accept his apology and thank him for the apology. So you're acknowledging him so that he also understands that He is late, and he did keep you waiting. But I wouldn't mention it any further because you've already agreed to make that exception. So there's no need to bring it forward. But it's definitely something you want to note. And so the next thing I think that is really challenging for women is texting. Sometimes men will text on the date, and maybe they have a big business deal going and they're receiving some texts, and maybe they even say, I had this happen to me. Oh, you know what? It's business. I got to take this real quick. And he'll take it. And you'll be like, sure, one time, right? But then he keeps doing it. And so what you can do in that moment, because that's a boundary violation, it not only is it really rude, even if it is a business deal, he could wait for 30 minutes to have a glass of wine with you or a cup of coffee to answer those texts. So you could lean forward and remember, ladies, we're always wanting to use our feather. Okay, you can lean forward and say something to him, but it's how you say it. So you can lean forward and put your hand on his arm. Not on his hand, that's very intimate, but on his arm or his elbow, and just say, I sound like it is terribly important, but I've turned my phone off, and it would be great if you could do the same so that we can have some undivided attention and get to know each other. And so if you say it really sweetly and kindly like that, and he doesn't do that, it's probably not going to be a fit going out in a future time. And maybe you'll end up shortening the amount of time you spend with him based on his reaction to that. But I would definitely speak your truth, because it's maybe somebody hasn't said anything. Maybe the woman before was okay and was okay with him texting, but he needs to hear from you. If it's not okay with you, then it's a no, and he needs to understand that. The last thing I have here, and then I'll take some questions, is splitting the check. So splitting the check is another area that women don't really know what to say or do. And mostly overall, if a man invites you on a date, I would assume that he's picking up the checks and asks you to sit on your hands. And I had a woman ask me literally, I'm like, no, don't literally sit on your hands. Just that means do not take your hands out of your lap to pull out money out of your purse. It doesn't mean that we don't want to reciprocate at some point. If we're dating a man, of course, we want to give back. But on a first and second date, if you're being asked out, I would assume that he's paying. On the event that he decides to ask you to split the check, you can do a couple of things. And so you practice saying this before you go. It's only happened to me once, but it might happen to you. And so you'll be prepared. And you can say no. You can just say, actually, I'm surprised that you're asking me to split the check. I just assumed that since you invited me on the date to meet you, that you were taking care of our the expenses. And just smile at him. See what he does. He might just say, okay, you're right. You called him on it. So this is all about respect, respect, respect. So you're not calling him on it in a rude way. You're not getting all huffy and being like, I can't believe that, and you're not necessarily reaching for your wallet. So why don't you try this first by asking him, just saying, well, I just assumed that you were taking care of it since you invited me on the date. Is that a problem? And then smile and see what he does. Now, if he insists that you split it, you can say, well, I dated a lot and it's getting really expensive, and he starts making all these excuses. Then you could say, fair enough. I'm happy to do that. Probably a good idea to make that clear to women before you go out with them. I mean, you could say something more, but I would go ahead and split the check, and then note to self, if you don't want to do that, don't go out with him again. So those are the difficult things I think it is to speak up about: texting, being late, and splitting the check. But it's okay to speak up about them on dates. Another thing that you can say on a date is admitting that you're nervous. Admitting you're nervous is really a very great way to make a more intimate connection. Admitting some kind of vulnerability. Because face it, we're all nervous on a first date, especially if we kind of like the person before we met them. We talked to them on the phone. So right up front, if you want to say, I can't believe how nervous I am right now. I'm feeling just a little nervous. What about you? And your date might admit that he's feeling a little nervous too. And in that moment, the moment that you say that, he feels a softening, at least some empathy for you. And I don't know if it's going to be chemistry, but right now he sees you as being really vulnerable, because that's a vulnerable thing to say. And it's an endearing thing to say. Has anybody, woman or man, said to you, I feel really nervous right now? And what do you want to do? You want to kind of assure them that everything's going to be okay. So it invites some kind of intimacy from your date. And I highly recommend it. Any more intimacy you can create on a date, the better. And so ladies, do you have anything that you want to add? Any questions? Hi, Linda. Thank you. I'm looking to see if there's any questions that I can answer here. Let me just scroll through my lovely YouTube people. Hi. Let's see. Let me just trying to make my screen a little bit bigger so I can capture. Must be a show for young people. I've never considered not paying the whole check. Oh, good. Good. So Steve says that it must be a show for young people. Well, this is a channel where I teach women to consciously create love, and so deliberately date and consciously create. So it's for all ages, but I'm definitely appealing to more of the middle-aged. And believe it or not, Steve, a lot of men do ask women to split the check. But I'm glad to hear that you are old school and you're a gentleman, and you don't know anybody that has ever asked a woman to split a check. So ladies, there's a man on YouTube right now that looks like he might be single and looks like a good guy. Better hop over to my YouTube and say hi to Steve. So thank you for commenting. I really appreciate that. So ladies, he's saying that he's never considered not picking up a check on the first couple of dates. I don't know beyond that, but there are men that are out there that do recognize that this is an obligation that they make. And that's how I kind of feel that it is, unless they clarify it, like, this is a really nice restaurant. Do you want to go Dutch or whatever? But it needs to be clarified up front. Let me see what other questions, and I'm leaning forward because they print so small. I have trouble speaking my truth when we're face to face. Oh, isn't that true? It's so hard to speak our truth when we're face to face, and here's why. A lot of it is because, and maybe you can post why you think it is. It's because we're afraid to hurt their feelings. We're afraid for rejection, right? We're afraid they won't ask us out again. But here's the truth: we want to show up with more emotional backbone, because face it, a man wants a woman who knows what she wants and likes and is not afraid to speak up. Again, the speaking up, maybe in the past you've used a harsher tone, or you've come on too strong, or maybe overreacted a bit. If you're coming from love, which I always recommend that you do, and you're using your feather, it's going to be coming across softer, more as, are you open to hearing what I have to say? You open to a thought I just had, and so you wanting to kind of invite them to a deeper conversation about what it is you're wanting to convey. And it takes a lot of courage to open up on dates. It does, but it also shows them who you are, that you are not afraid to be seen and not afraid to be transparent and real, because that's going to create a connection much faster than holding back. When you hold back in a relationship, your relationship cannot grow and flourish, because if you don't communicate what you need, how can the relationship grow and expand? It's impossible. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships. They get into a relationship, start making assumptions, start scorekeeping the mistakes that are going on or the things that bother or irk them. So now all of a sudden there's all this, unprocessed conversations that are being swept under the rug, and then they pile up like dominoes, and all of a sudden in 6 months you're really disgruntled with the guy you're seeing because he's missed out on all these things, but you never brought it up, you never talked about it. So here's a rule of thumb that I'm going to leave you with. Make sure you're speaking about relevant, important things to you on a weekly basis. After a week, consider it's in the past. I don't recommend bringing things up after a week and presenting them into the now, because you're contaminating your current present moment with the past. So that's just a rule of thumb that you can live by, which will help you to keep your relationships clear of all that emotional debris that happens when we don't speak up on a regular basis. So choose your moments. Choose what you're speaking up about wisely, ladies. We have a tendency, and men say this, that we're picking on them. Picking. So choose the things that are really important, that really matter, and let go of all those little things that don't matter. Let go of, the laundry, or him not picking something up, or forgetting things. Just let all that go. And just choose the things that are really important to your relationship, that really will make a difference if you don't talk about them. That's the rule of thumb I keep with Michael, and that's why we have a harmonious relationship. Almost every single thing can be let go of. Once I ask myself, is this important? What is this really about? Typically, it's about me and something I can resolve within myself. So I recommend you do that. So I hope this helps with your dates, ladies. Make a point to speak up on your dates, but use your feather. And so let me see if there's one last question that I can answer. What point does one consider it a relationship? Is it okay to say what I need on the fourth date? So yeah, I think it's great to say what you need, in the first phone call. Just depends on not giving them a laundry list of your needs, right? You already have, if you're dating online, you already know their profile. You already know if they want a committed relationship, if you know how many kids they have. You can find out a lot of that. First dates you want to keep relatively organic so you can see what's shared and get a feel for the man and who he is instead of having a laundry list of questions. And then, of course, during the dating process, the 4 dates you're going on, you're showing up in a way that demonstrating what you want. So you're not acting like a single woman. You're not running around with a big group of women. You are not talking about all of these things that really wouldn't be included in a relationship. So you really want to think about what you're saying and make sure that what you're saying is congruent with what you want. So you're not sending any mixed signals. And then you want to be looking for, on the 4th date, it's okay to say, you can even ask this sooner. What's your vision for your life for the next 5 years? I mean, that's kind of an exciting question to ask someone. Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, what trips do you want to take? Or where do you see yourself in your business? Have you given any thought to that? And see where they're at. It's like, no, I really don't think about anything past an hour. Yeah, I see myself, and see what they say, because that's going to give you a lot of insight into whether or not you want to take it to a deeper level on the 4th day. But I would let the man lead that, because if you're putting too much pressure on where you want to steer things, that could push him back a bit. You want to let him steer it, because you want to see where he's going to take the dating process. If you let the man lead, he will show you how he feels about you and what his intentions are with you in the first 4 dates. So if you haven't seen that, that means you might be trying to lead it, and he's not going to reveal as much because he's pulling back a little bit because you might be coming on too strong. So just look at the actions, not the words. Those are the things that you want to focus on. Our actions really say a lot more about who we are over our words, because words are easy and we can say things without even realizing the impact it has on the other person. But our actions, like, for example, I've got to get going. I've got an early morning. It's 9:30 at night. You're on a date. He wants to stay for another drink. You're like, I got to get up, so I got to go. You get up and you leave. That action, even though you want to stay, says a lot more than staying and having another drink and getting home at 11, wishing you, and it's still pretty early, wishing you would have left earlier. So you need to teach him who you are and who you're going to be in the relationship. And you have that opportunity in those first 4 dates to do that. Okay, ladies, I'm just looking and see. Sorry, I'm leaning down like this, but I'm trying to read the questions. You're welcome, Bridget. Yay. Okay, ladies, I'm going to end the broadcast. I don't want to keep going on and on. Thank you for your great question and for being here. Now, I'm going to be holding my YouTube and Facebook lives on 3 o'clock Pacific from now on. I checked and it seems like it's a better time to be online going forward every Thursday. And I hope you'll join me. I'm going to be coming up with more relationship topics because I'm launching a relationship mastery course in the fall. So I'm going to be talking more about the aspects of relationship, also dating, but more about the relating, the relationships, keeping the love alive, in different scenarios and what to do when you get into a relationship and you're dating somebody consistently. So I'll look forward to connecting with all of you about those topics next week at 3 o'clock Pacific. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. There's a little box right here if you're new to me. And on Facebook, you can like my page or hop on over to YouTube so you get notifications about the live videos that I do. So thank you, ladies, for being here, and gents, and wishing you all lots of love. I'll see you next week. Bye. Bye, ladies.